This week on Supercars Torque, ignore everything that was said last week about it being a quiet silly season. It's been blown wide open. The big news that came out last week, just in time to kind of wreck my video, was that Jaime is leaving Kelly Grove Racing at the end of the year. A few things kind of fell into place for this to happen, but it seems that one domino is kind of fallen down the queue, I suppose, within the field. And Jaime wasn't the first domino by the sounds of things. Nick Percat's signature that was supposedly on a contract with Brad Jones Racing, maybe it wasn't that the ink wasn't dry, maybe the ink was never actually on the contract, and Nick Percat threw a spanner in the works with Brad Jones Racing by signing with Walkinshaws, which in turn meant that Brad Jones Racing needed a team leader. So they went in search of Heimgartner. So that's where he's leaving Kelly's to go and actually lead Brad Jones Racing. I do recall a couple of comments from me early on after the news came out last week. My initial thoughts were he'd be going to Walkinshaws because I thought that Percat was locked away at Brad Jones. No, it looks like Percat not locked in at Brad Jones. And it didn't really make sense to me for Jaime to go and be number 2 at Brad Jones Racing, but being number 1 at Brad Jones Racing, little bit of a different prospect there. And then as kind of the dominoes fall down the field, then forward leaving Walkinshaws, looks like he's going to Tickford, possibly with someone else from Brad Jones Racing. And then Jack LeBrock obviously vacating a seat there at Tickford and moving himself up north, probably with some truck assist money. Putting 2 and 2 together, who's the team up north that needs some more money? Well, they don't really need drivers. I think they're pretty set for drivers, but they've got the seats available. So Matt Stone Racing, a logical choice there for Jack LeBrock. And of course, then the seat at Kelly Grove Racing. They're talking, I keep going to call him Max Payne. I'm not sure why. It sounds like something from The Simpsons, you know. But Matt Payne, who I actually had to look up who this kid was, because I had no idea. I haven't been following the GT3 Championship or whatever in Australia, but apparently he's New Zealand's next big thing. So, you know, being the next Shane Van Gisbergen isn't a bad thing. But would I, if I was the Groves, would I be looking for a really, really, really raw rookie? I mean, like, Triple Eight taking on Brock Feeney is a bit of a punt, because, you know, Brock's only had a couple of years in Super 2 and a year in Super 3 and that. This Matt Payne, he's actually, as far as I know, he hasn't driven a supercar yet. He's done his karting and whatever, and he's driven some Porsches and that. And as much as you've got Dave Reynolds there, they do seem to be lacking a bit of that direction this year, even with Reynolds and Jaime, who, you know, they're both experienced steerers in the category. Then everything kind of, while they're trying to build the team and, you know, they say they need experience and they want to bring on experienced people and that to, you know, lift the whole team. Bringing on a driver that doesn't know what they want from the car so much yet. Like, if it was me in the team, and obviously the Groves aren't going to listen to me because what would I know? But I would be looking for someone with oodles of experience. The name that really springs to mind, who they're probably not interested at all in this job, because they've got their sweet co-driver role thing going on, where they're probably going to go and win a few Bathursts. Pending Bathurst actually happening. But Garth Chander would be the person that you would want for that job, because he knows what a fast car feels like. He knows how to direct the team. You know, he's been there and done it. You're not going to get a Garth Tander to do a job like that. But I'd be looking down those lines. You know, even someone, you know, maybe talk to Michael Caruso or Lee Holdsworth or someone like that. Someone who's got a bit more experience in the cars, even if you're only signing them for 1 or 2 years, while, you know, keep Matt Payne, do your Super 2 program that they're talking about, running him in a few rounds for the rest of the year. Do that kind of thing, bring him up to speed, Brock Feeney style, and then bring him up into the team. I think it's going to be a big ask. Get the monitors back up and running. I think it's going to be a big ask, you know, someone like that. So anyway, I did say last week, you know, a lot of the seats were kind of sorted, and it was, you know, a little bit of the whole silly season thing just got blown wide open last week by that. But it looks like the pieces of the jigsaw have quite quickly fitted into position, you know, where they're going to end up for next year. The last few bits for this week, I'll cover off pretty quickly because they're not massive stories, depending on how you look at it. Looks like the final piece of the co-driver jigsaw puzzle for Bathurst is going to be sealed away pretty quickly. Jaden Ojeda is going to test with Matt Stone Racing, I think this week. I think you're allowed to go and do things up in Queensland, unlike Victoria where you're not allowed to do anything. So that, you know, it seems like they're heading down that direction, which is, you know, quite logical. Get one of the front runners from Super 2 that's not already signed. And I would assume he brings a budget, because he would have probably brought a budget to do that Gary Rogers deal last year. So that all makes sense there. Phillip Island and the Gold Coast events have been given the can for this year. They're still saying there will be 5 more events to meet the TV contract for the rest of the year. Will there be a situation where Winton gets canned as well? Because, as I said, we're still very limited with what we can do in Victoria at the moment. And regional Victoria has opened up a bit, so maybe there's a bit of a possibility with... I'm assuming the location kind of Winton as opposed to Phillip Island. Phillip Island logistically is probably a bit harder for the teams to kind of come in and out of, whereas if there is going to be, you know, a few events at Sydney Motorsport Park like what they're talking about, it is probably a bit easier to, you know, just come over the border a little bit and not come into, you know, mainland Victoria and infect us all with the, you know, all the New South Wales germs. It's out of control, all of this. The E-Series listened to me, and they have got rid of some of the oval races. They will be going to Watkins Glen and Monza now, not for the proper E-Series guys, but the real race driver races. They're actually going to have a race on a racetrack, which I'd have to admit, I watched the first E-Series oval thing and lost a bit of interest in it. Apparently they raced in actual NASCARs last week, which maybe I should get on, because it is a little bit different, you know, just to see what it's all about. And Scott Mclaughlin, it's looking less and less likely that we are ever going to see him again. He is going for his green card interview next week. So he's even renouncing, you know, his New Zealand ties, and he wants to become an American citizen. So there you go. It's going to make it even harder, I'd imagine, for him to get back in the country with the way everything's going at the moment. The final little thing I want to cover off this week, with all of the silly season talk, one person seems to have kind of missed the boat once again, which you might not agree with me, but Jimmy Goulding, where's his seat in all of this? The only thing I'm thinking is, you know, maybe he's in the frame to why Scott Pye hasn't quite been announced yet, you know. Maybe James is, you know, trying to get himself in that seat, because his name's not being mentioned anywhere else, and he's definitely, in my opinion, I think he needs another go. I think he did a really good job against Stanaway. He didn't look bad against Tander, and Tander has generally done pretty well against his teammates over the years. So I think young Jimmy deserves another shot, but where does he fit in? Down in the comments, let me know what you think. Are you happy with the moves? Chaz and Nick Percat at Walkinshaw, that is definitely the kind of lineup that Walkinshaw, that double kind of punch that Walkinshaw needs to take on the big guys. That is definitely a big, sign of intent that they want to get up the front there and take them on. But let me know what you think in the comments. And I'm still Dave, and until next time, I'll catch you later.